Debunking the theory that the Apollo moon landing was fake. The Apollo 11 moon landing on July 19, 1969 was an incredible milestone in human history. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin's iconic first steps on the moon captivated an estimated 530 million TV viewers worldwide. However, in the years that followed, conspiracy theories claiming that the moon landing was a hoax gained traction. Despite being easily debunked, these theories continue to persist. This video will dwell into the enduring conspiracy theories surrounding the moon landing and provide evidence to refute them. The claim that the American flag appears to be flapping in the wind in photographs from the Apollo 11 mission is a common argument put forth by moon landing deniers. However, this claim can be readily debunked with a closer examination of the facts. Contrary to deniers' assertions, the flags planted on the moon were not ordinary flags. They were specially designed to be easily visible in the lunar landscape. These flags had a unique feature, a horizontal rod inside that allowed them to stand out from the flagpole. The purpose of this design was to make the flag more prominent and prevent it from hanging slack, as regular flags would on Earth when there's no wind. During the Apollo 11 mission, the astronauts encountered some difficulties while extending the rod fully, resulting in a ripple effect that made the flag appear as though it was waving. However, it's important to note that this movement was not caused by wind because there's no atmosphere on the moon. In video footage of the flag, it becomes apparent that it only moves when the astronauts are actively handling or interacting with it. Once they step away, the flag remains in the same bent shape due to the partially extended rod. This phenomenon can be attributed to the physical properties of the flag and the actions of the astronauts. The flag's movement is a result of the forces exerted upon it by the astronauts as they plant it on the lunar surface. The absence of wind on the moon ensures that there's no natural air movement to cause the flag to flutter. Therefore, the claim that the flag appears to be flapping in the wind is easily explained by understanding the design of the flag and the actions of the astronauts during the Apollo 11 mission. Before we go to the next part, like the video and subscribe to the channel and help us to grow and stay tuned for upcoming videos. The absence of stars. The absence of stars in the photographs taken on the moon is another argument often raised by skeptics. However, this claim can be easily addressed by considering the technical aspects of photography and the specific conditions on the lunar surface. During the Apollo moon missions, the astronauts' camera were set for daylight exposures. This was necessary because the moon's surface was brightly illuminated by the sun. In such bright conditions, the exposure settings of the cameras needed to be adjusted according to capture the details of the lunar landscape. As a result, the cameras were not optimized to capture the relatively dim light of the stars. Furthermore, the astronauts themselves were wearing bright white spacesuits, which were highly reflective. These suits, designed to protect them from the harsh environment, further affected the exposure settings of the cameras. The reflective nature of the spacesuits increased the overall brightness of the scene, making it even more challenging to capture the faint light of the stars. To understand this concept, we can draw a parallel with everyday photography. Imagine standing on someone's back porch at night and turning on the lights. Although stars might be visible to the naked eye, a quick exposure camera would struggle to capture their faint light in the presence of brightly lit surroundings. On the moon, where there is no atmospheric interference, the stars would indeed be visible to the astronauts. However, due to the limitations of the cameras and the specific exposure settings required to capture the moon's surface and the astronauts themselves, the stars were not captured in the photographs. It's important to note that the primary objective of the moon missions was to document the lunar surface, conduct experiments, and capture the activities of the astronauts. The absence of stars in the photographs do not diminish the authenticity of the moon landing, but rather reflect the technical challenges and limitations of capturing celestial objects in the unique conditions of the lunar environment. Shadows and illuminations. One of the arguments frequently put forth by moon landing skeptics revolves around the shadows depicted in the images from the lunar surface. These skeptics claim that the shadows appear inconsistent or unnatural, suggesting the use of artificial lighting. However, this theory overlooks a crucial factor: the reflective nature of the lunar surface. While it is true that the sun is the primary source of illumination on the moon, it is important to recognize that the lunar ground also plays a role in reflecting sunlight. The moon's surface is covered in a layer of fine dust and regolith, which reflects and scatters sunlight in various directions. This phenomenon is known as lunar surface scattering. During the Apollo missions, the sunlight on the moon's surface would scatter or reflect off the lunar ground in multiple directions. As a result, even in shadowed areas, some of the scattered light would reach objects, allowing them to be partially visible. This scattering effect explains why certain objects, such as the plaque left by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, can be discerned in the photographs despite being in shadow. The scattered light contributes to the overall illumination of the moon's surface, enhancing the visibility of objects even in areas that are not directly exposed to the sun. It is important to note that scattered light is a relatively weaker source of illumination compared to direct sunlight. This is why objects in shadow may appear darker or have less pronounced shadows compared to those in direct sunlight. Moreover, the angle and orientation of the sun can also affect the appearance of shadows. Depending on the position of the sun in relation to the objects and the terrain, the length, direction, and intensity of shadows can vary. This variation in shadow characteristics is perfectly consistent with the laws of physics and the principles of light and reflection. By understanding the principles of lunar surface scattering and the behavior of light, it becomes clear that the shadows depicted in the moon landing images are entirely consistent with natural lighting conditions on the lunar surface. The scattered light from the reflective lunar ground allows objects in shadow to remain partially visible, debunking the notion that artificial lighting was used during the moon landing. Armstrong's camera and Kubrick's involvement. One of the arguments put forth by moon landing deniers is the speculation that Stanley Kubrick, the renowned director of 2001's A Space Odyssey, was involved in filming the moon landing in a studio. This claim is often supported by the assertion that there is no visible camera in one photograph of Neil Armstrong on the moon. However, this argument is based on misunderstandings and lacks credible evidence. The absence of a visible camera in Armstrong's reflection can be easily explained by considering the practical challenges faced by the astronauts. Wearing bulky spacesuits and maneuvering in the low-gravity environment of the moon would have made it extremely difficult for Armstrong to handle a handheld camera. Instead, the astronauts used cameras mounted on the front of their suits, allowing them to capture their activities and surroundings while keeping their hands free for other tasks. In the particular photograph in question, the camera would have been positioned in a way that it is not visible in Armstrong's reflection. Furthermore, the suggestion that Kubrick was involved in filming the moon landing is based on a hoax and lacks substantial evidence. The realism achieved in Kubrick's film 2001: A Space Odyssey was the result of meticulous attention to detail, collaboration with astronomical artists, and consultation with aerospace engineers. Kubrick employed advanced filmmaking techniques and special effects to create a visually stunning depiction of outer space. However, there is no credible evidence to support the claim that he was recruited by the government to stage a fake moon landing. It is essential to distinguish between the artistic achievements of Kubrick and the historical reality of the Apollo moon landings. The moon landings were a monumental scientific and technological achievement. They involved the efforts of thousands of scientists, engineers, and astronauts. The evidence supporting the authenticity of the moon landing is overwhelming and has been extensively documented and analyzed by experts in various fields. The persistence of moon landing conspiracy theories stem more from ideological and political motivations than from scientific evidence. By examining and debunking some of the most enduring claims made by deniers, we can reaffirm the authenticity and significance of the Apollo moon landing. Don't miss the latest updates on space exploration. Subscribe to our channel and click here to watch the next video, fellow cosmonaut.